Good morning. It is Randy Byrd, and I'm super excited to be here with you today. And we have the legendary man in the house, Knolly Williams. And Knolly is, honestly, he's a legend in the space, in the real estate space. And I am blessed to know him, but I'd love to give you a little background about this guy and edify him a little bit for the show. His bio would take me probably 10 minutes to go over completely. So I'm going to highlight and summarize, and we're going to bring him in the show and talk about what's happening for Knolly. But born in Brooklyn, New York, 1970. In 1980, he moved to South Central LA, Compton. By the way, Compton's in the house. Knolly didn't know this until this morning, but I'm from Linwood, Compton as well. And, just super, super stoked to have him on the show today and some of the alignment that we have. But started as an entrepreneur at age 13. No shock there, right? These high performers start at a very early age. Moved to Austin, Texas at 18 years old, probably when he started wearing that cool hat. And then married to a beautiful Josie in 1992. Launched his first real estate business in 1993 at the age of 23, a Christian rap label. Wait till you hear the rest of the story on this thing. In 1997, that label rose to number one in the world in that particular genre in Christian rap. Received a multi-million-dollar distribution deal with EMI Capital, major players in the space. Became a seven-figure business, earning over $150,000 a month. Now, he's 27 years old at this stage. In 2002, record label and music business tanked with the emergence of MP3 and digital. We know when that changed that space completely. Lost a 6,000 square foot home. Really probably came to a place of humility and understanding. Almost lost all of his possessions. We're going to talk about perseverance and what winners look like when they fail and fell forward. 2003, got into real estate at the rock bottom, took 21 listings his first 74 days. 2003, got into a real estate. 2003 was starting real estate. 2007 became one of top 20 RE/MAX agents in the state of Texas. I remember this as I was in the RE/MAX space right before Knolly Williams. I joined KW in 2007. Joined Knolly Williams in 2009 when I got to know Knolly for the first time and personally in Austin, Texas. And, check this out. Ranked number 7 agent in all of Austin, Texas by the Business Journal. And that's out of 9,500 local agents. He was number 7. 2009, he joined Knolly Williams Realty as a MAPS coach. Launched into the top coach program with MAPS at that time with KW. And I remember him in the short sale space. He was like Cal Worthington in your dog spot to the short sale space and industry and Knolly Williams and the world. I was in his program. I remember that. He was legendary, is legendary. So fast forward a little bit, 2013, begins teaching and training for free. Free, as in Jesse James, free B, right? You're going to find out this guy's a giver. At 2015, at age 45, that's 4-5, he retired, right? But you don't retire Knolly Williams. I'm just telling you. 2019, he reemerged in the real estate space, launching a free mentoring, mastering, coaching program powered by eXp Realty. And, just a couple Knolly factoids before we get into this thing. Knolly owned the largest Christian rap label in the world. That's a big space. In the world. Listed and sold more than 1,000 listings during his 10 years as an active agent. National best-selling author. Again, no surprise, winners win and find a way to win. Knolly's spoken at more than 100 cities. I've been blessed enough to see him in a good number of cities, but 100 cities worldwide he's spoken. He loves to share, teach, travel, and enjoy the world and life. And, here's his mission statement that really struck out to me, and I'd like to read it word for word, Knolly. My purpose is to inspire you to become all that God created you to be so that you can live a life you were meant to live. And Knolly, I got God bumps saying your mission statement. I mean, it rings to me. It's close to my heart. And with that, world welcome, Knolly Williams to Tuesday Titans Live. I'm so blessed to have you here, brother.
What's up? What's up, Randy? Good to be here, man. It's so good to be here. And just hearing all that, it's like, whoa, that's like my life story flashing in front of me.
No, it is. And sometimes we've got to look at what's happening and what we can do to change the world. And that's no different for you, bro. And I'm just really, really excited to have you on the show and really in a place that, you're bringing content and the goods to people as we go.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm excited to be here, man. I'm curious to see what kind of questions you're going to ask me because
Uh,
well,
I, I've got some stuff happening that we're going to be getting into. But
we'll
really, I
ad
want
lib
the
it, but
world to
I tell
know.
you, it's great to be able to be a giver and to give back. And I think, Randy, to your point, I really believe that we're all givers. A lot of us have just lost sight of that, you know.
Yeah, it's so true. And the thing for me is, like the passion project of this show. We don't charge, we don't do advertising. It's really about highlighting the titans in the industry. And there's a couple verticals that we go into: real estate, lending, business entrepreneurship. A serial entrepreneur like you. I had a lawn mowing business at a very young age, and then two paper routes because I found that if I had two, I can kind of control a whole zip code. And you're the same way, knowing your background in history. I want the viewers to know a little bit about that. Where do you get wired to be an entrepreneur at a very young age? Because I think that's very valuable to people. And then also, what drives you to just have perseverance and succeed? Let's talk about a little bit about what that history of you and that entrepreneurship look like.
So my dad came here to the United States from Trinidad. He was born and raised in the Caribbean, and he was 18 years old when he came here, and he had a really different perspective. He went to school. He joined the Air Force. He got out with the GI Bill. He was able to get his bachelor's degree, but he always taught me entrepreneurship. He always taught me to have to make my own way, and it was very interesting. He taught me a lot of great lessons around that, and he was a guy that he saw the opportunity. He saw America as a land of opportunity when he came here, and he saw the potentiality that many people that are born here just don't see. And so a lot of my entrepreneurial tendencies really come from or credited to his tutelage, his leadership. He would always have a booth. He did all kinds of stuff. He was actually a master wood craftsman, but then he ended up making jewelry, handcrafted jewelry. And so he would have a booth every week at the flea market. And of course he would be like, okay, boy, what you going to sell? So I had to figure out what I was going to
I
create.
love
And
that.
so,
I love
so
that.
I had my own line of products, so he would have the majority of the booth space. He would give me about 20%, 20% of the space. And I just love, Randy, what I call the process of profit. I love to be able to take a dollar and make that into five or make it into three or whatever the case might be. I just love that whole process and being able to provide something that the people want.
Right.
So it's just in my blood. It's in my DNA.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I know that so well. And so where do you think that comes from an entrepreneur place? You think it came from your dad just instilling that in you? And, like you said, boy, what you going to sell today? What you going to do? Right.
Honestly, I think it's just something that you're blessed with. Like I see people quite often, Randy, and you wonder because we all have access to the same information. I mean, we have access to the same books.
Yeah.
We have access to the same training, the same learning. But some people take advantage of it and others just don't. And I, I, I've always been very, very driven from a very young age to wealth. A lot of people have an aversion to being wealthy, and I just never did. So it's something that I can't necessarily take credit for internally. It's more of a God thing. It's a gift that God endowed me with from a very early age. I mean, I've been selling as long as I can remember. I figured out a way to sell something.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we also grow through that entrepreneur spirit of understanding what that looks like. And then for me, I could sell ice to an Eskimo, and that's a pretty common statement. but I did it without knowing what integrity was in the early ages,
Right.
because I didn't know. I mean, I remember, and I think we're out of the statute of limitations, but I did a lot of sketchy shit when I was younger.
Yeah.
Excuse
Same
my
here.
language, but I remember taking newspapers out of you put your quarter in, take 20 newspapers out, and I'm selling newspapers for quarter a piece. And I'm like, dude, this is like a 400% profit margin. Well, no, I was stealing and reselling them. But, when you're at that age, it just seemed like it was okay. And not to make excuses, but my environment when I was young was that it was a place to where it was a different world for me, right? Do me a favor, Knolly, make sure your mic's not off. I see a little cross in your mic.
I usually mute it when you're talking. That way I don't.
Oh, is that okay? I just wanted to make sure we weren't I wasn't missing this valuable content. All right, cool. You're totally good. So I just saw it and I was like, no. So, for me, that path of integrity came after, really. It came to when all of a sudden it was everything I had. It was the moral fabric of what I was worth, right? My worth was the only thing you have is your word and your integrity. But I didn't learn that until later on, especially as I was getting to being brought up in Compton and South Central and going to Southgate High School, Huntington Park Elementary. And we have a lot of connections in that space, Compton. That's a rough environment. I mean, my whole environment of what I knew was a hustle, right?
Yeah.
So there was some hustle to get ahead. And, a lot of guys went the wrong direction, and a lot of guys found faith and stuff. And I want to get into this. I know you're a man of faith and of the cloth, and I'm a Christian, but I found it later in life because I was forced to go to church when I was little. And so I rebelled against that as soon as I had an option and opportunity to rebel against it. And then honestly, it was our brother, Brent Gove, that near and dear to my heart. He's a brother to me.
Wow.
He's the one that brought Christ back into my heart.
Amen.
And this is only a few years ago. And, it's there, but he gave it life support and brought it back to me. Wow. and helped me understand that. So, and I'm not a guy that talks a lot about religion and politics and all that stuff, but I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. I remember that day on the side of the road that he passed me off to Father Francis that I then talked to for an hour. And Father Francis basically, brought Jesus back into my heart that day, sitting in basically the footprint of Mount Shasta, which is, one of the most powerful places on earth by a couple measures. And so I want to transition to you a little bit. When did you find that spiritual guidance, if you will, in your life? Because I know that's part of your moral fabric. Am I right?
Yeah. And it sure is. I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. From the time I was 18 years old when I came to Jesus myself. And my story, I was because when you're an entrepreneur, like you said, if you don't have ethics and morality in what you do, and by the way, many of the largest corporations in America are unethical. They are basically like cartels, the way they operate. Why? Because they provide products and services to people that they know harm them, that they know are harmful in the long run and even in the short run. Yet they don't realize that they're answerable to an almighty God for their actions. And so when I was young, I was the same way. I was like, you could take it, Randy, all the way to the young thug on the street, all the way to the major corporations. And if you don't have if you don't have an ethical, if you don't have that ethical component, you can get into some shady stuff. So that's what I did when I was 16. I was expelled from the LA County, the LA Unified School District. I was expelled from that school district for selling drugs in school, because to me, that was like, when you start becoming an entrepreneur in LA, it's like, okay, where can I make the most profit?
Yeah, right. Where's the biggest vertical? Well, it's pretty clear where it's at. It's on the corner.
Exactly. So I got into that. But when I was in juvenile hall, I had a lot of time to really, really think and reflect on my life and where it was going. And distinctly, I remember, but in juvenile hall, interestingly enough, I learned how to go from selling marijuana, which is what I was busted for. I had 4 felony counts of marijuana sales, to selling crack cocaine. That's what I learned how to do while I was locked up. So then when I get out, guess what?
About you.
Yeah, when I get out, I'm into a whole new line, right? And so that went on for some time until finally, I mean, I moved out of the house when I was 16 years old. My mother was a Christian as well, and she was a little bit fanatical, like really, probably really fanatical, bipolar, if you could say that.
Yeah.
She was really off the edge with it. So I rebelled also. We went to church every week and all that, and I said, man, I'm done with that. So an interesting thing happened when I was about 17. I moved out of the house when I was 16. I was actually paying my rent to the lady I was staying with. She was hooked on drugs, so I was paying my rent with drugs. And I went out to sell in the afternoon, which I never did. I went with my buddy Sagloke. They call me Rubber Dub. You know, everybody had names back then. Yeah, I wonder, what was your name, Randy? Back then?
So I was Birdman, and I liked that, but they always did the early bird got the worm, and the reference was obviously, you know, what it is. I hated that, bro. I hated that, like a fight over it. And now today it's like, it's almost kind of a calling card. Early bird gets a worm. I love it. Right. So it's amazing. But yeah, I didn't like my nicknames when I was little.
Yeah,
Birdman has been with me forever. I got a big Birdman tattoo and stuff.
Well, a lot of us during that time, we had nicknames. So I started off, they call me Chicken Man in school. And then I call myself Scratch Master K because I started doing the turntables and into rap and all that. And then Rubber Dub became kind of like my name. So then my buddy, his name was Sagloke, Corey Lee, a bunch of, you know, no goods.
Right.
And so, yeah, we went out and there was a raid on the projects. And what happened was I ended up being able to get away, but my buddy, we call each other cousins, you know, when you claim cousins.
Yeah.
So when we got to the safe spot, which interestingly enough was a Catholic church, we got to the safe spot from the raid. There was like 50 cops coming in all different directions. Wow. Some of us escaped, most didn't. And it turns out that Sagloke, he was out on parole, which we all knew. But Reagan had just come up with the 3 strikes. And so when Sagloke was out on parole, he got caught. He got another case, what we call a dope case. So he was in for life. It was like 40 to life or something crazy. Rule. Yeah, he was done. So that's really, Randy, when I started thinking at about 17 years old, actually I was just turned 18, man, I got to do something different. And so little by little, I started returning back to the faith of my roots. And I remember around Thanksgiving, my uncle came to California from Austin, Texas. And he's like, boy, you need to come out to Austin. I said, man, I'm not going to no Texas. you know, when you're from California,
East LA Compton to, you know, cow capital of the world or whatever. Oil fields and cows.
Yeah. When you're like, that's all I could think. Cows and, you know, horses. Right. But when I got here and I packed an overnight bag, I planned to stay in Austin for a couple of weeks and go back home, but I never left. I've been here 31 years. Wow. And I had just accepted the Lord. And when I got here, I got more deeply rooted. By the time I was 19, I became a Bible teacher. And actually, I've been teaching a weekly Bible class ever since.
Are you kidding
years.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's so amazing. So amazing. You know, you were already like up to here in my level and just as a human being. And that's what I love about these interviews. We find things about each other that are just, you know, really rise the bar. And I love that about, because people are going to see this and our tens of fans, right? I'm joking. We had a couple of shows that have had a lot of success. We had, you know, 7,000 views on one. And my vision for this is really to promote you, to let people see you, you know, into me, you see intimacy. Yeah. And really get to know the real Knolly and also the trials and tribulations, because I think those are equitable to the entrepreneur space. That you keep hearing perseverance, you keep hearing grit and all these entrepreneur things. And the young kids nowadays, in my opinion, they think there's an easy way, right? There's an easy way. There's got to be a shortcut. And there are a lot of shortcuts, but the shortcuts come through belief and systems and models and commitment to reading and learning, right? Absolutely. And like you said, it's all available. It's all free. It's just, you know, where are you at in your discipline to do such?
Right.
So let me ask you, Knolly, what's like the top 1, 2, 3 books you're reading right now, or what's tracking with Knolly Williams?
So I brought one of them right now. So our book of the month this month is Feel Free to Prosper. So I've got a group that I teach called Mentorship Masters, and we have a book of the month. I've read thousands of books, and that's one of the things, Randy, that no matter what, I've always been a voracious reader. When I was in fifth grade, I was reading on a sophomore college level. Okay,
Is that right?
That doesn't say anything about any of my other classes.
Right.
Those were Desmond.
We're going to talk about the good ones.
Yeah, but I've always loved to read. So this is Marilyn Janae. She has a book called Feel Free to Prosper, which is absolutely amazing.
I love it.
One of my all-time favorite books is this one right here called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. Right. This is an absolutely amazing book that it should really be required reading.
Really?
Yeah, this one is absolutely.
Who's incredible. The title again? Joseph Murray?
Joseph Murphy, Dr. Joseph Murphy.
Murphy, okay. Power of Subconscious Mind. Okay, I'm getting that one today.
Yeah, this is, and they're on Audible, both on Audible. Awesome. I like the book Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins. It's an absolutely amazing book. One of the things I learned recently, Randy, was the fact that we within the last 3 years, or consciously, it came to the forefront of my understanding, is that we have 4 bodies. We have a physical body, we have a spiritual body, we have an emotional body, and we have a mental body. And so we have to feed those bodies. And science has discovered that the Homo sapien has 3 brains, and that's a whole nother topic. But so getting this knowledge in is so very important. A lot of people don't succeed because they don't know. That's called lack of knowledge. And others, Randy, which you and I know, and we've discovered, and we've witnessed, maybe those are maybe even some on our own team, right? That we look, they have all the information, they have all the knowledge, but they do not move forward with what they know, and that's called lack of discipline. Not moving forward with what you should be doing.
Maybe the most painful type to watch, actually, right?
It's very painful.
Incredibly talented, incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly capable, and doing nothing.
Nothing. Or they're not really living up to their full potential. And that's why like I say, with my purpose statement, it's to inspire you to become all that God created you to be, so that you can live the life that you were meant to live. See, every single person that's listening to us right now, when they came into this realm, they had a very unique and specific purpose. Mm-hmm. And I had a specific, unique purpose, and I was abusing that purpose. My purpose became perverted. And so I thought, oh, well, since I am here to generate wealth, I can do it by any means necessary. And it's like, no, that's not the way it works.
Right.
And so yeah, those are 3 of my favorite books. My absolute all-time favorite book is the Bible, obviously. Yeah. It's something that I teach every week. And I tell people, if you can't read the whole Bible, you're not interested in reading the whole thing, just read the New Testament. And if you don't want to just read the whole New Testament, just read the book of John. And if you don't want to read just the whole book of John, just read the words in red. That narrows it down for you a little bit.
That's almost verbatim of what Mr. Gove told me when we started this journey.
Really?
And
love it.
Yeah, it is. And for me, well, it's not for me, it's for you. So I want to circle back and come to you from a place of, mindset. I believe that winners have mindsets that we work with. And I don't know, we've done about a dozen shows now. And honestly, 50% of the people, when I ask them what's their favorite book, the Bible is the book. Yeah. And I wouldn't say that even to this day. It's just not where my mind goes. But that means that I'm still on that journey to find what really is my North Star, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that, because I'm on a beautiful journey, and I know that journey is really happening for good reason. I don't give any thought to, I wish I would have knew this 20 years ago. I wouldn't have been there 20 years ago. And somebody that's not there today, I can't shoot on them of what they should be doing. That's not fair to them. That's their journey is going to happen, right?
Right.
But in the mindset space, that's something that is, without question, my biggest passion project, because I believe that's where everything happens. The stories we tell our people or tell ourselves are what we believe. And, we're in an environment that's like, show me and I'll believe, rather than believe and then you'll be shown. right? That's just so critical in what we see in both coaching and mentoring. And you're in that same space with me, but in your teachings and your dealings, what is your message when you're working with all these people and inspiring and impacting, countless lives, if not thousands and thousands of lives? Do you have a basic belief or premise that you follow in that? Is it spiritual belief? Is it core belief? Is it mindset? What is it for you and your style, basically?
With my style, I actually have 8 pillars that I teach people that come to me to create wealth, because they're living hand to mouth, or they're in feast or famine, which you and I know, Randy, doesn't have to be. I mean, feast or famine is not a place that you want to live. That's for teenagers. That's for amateurs, for novices. Right. And so mindset really is 99%. On the spectrum that I teach, there's 8 pillars, and begins with mindset. Okay. So it's mindset, activities, people, systems, tools, money, accountability, and training. Those are the 8 pillars of right. what I teach. Now, number 1, what it all begins with is mindset. And right next to that, I have activities. Okay. So mindset and activities, if most people stay parked, like most of my training pretty much stays parked in those 2 areas, because mindset is 99% of success. Right. And then now that your thinking has changed and you're thinking differently, what ought you to be doing?
Because your activities align with that.
Absolutely. And not only that, but your activities are dictated by the way you think. And so a person, when they change the way they think, they change what they do, which changes what they have. It's a beautiful thing to watch, because we have our success stories, just like we have those on our team that won't do what we tell them to do. Because Randy, you know that if you model something for someone and they do what you tell them to do and they say what you tell them to say, they absolutely will have success, someone on your team. But then
almost without exception,
without fail.
Right? There could be outside factors that influence the speed of that success or change the trajectory of it, but without fail, that happens. And that's when people are coachable or not coachable, and they're open for learning,
And that's where I practice detached compassion, because you can't want it more for them than they want it. So you have to have compassion, and you have to care, but not that much. I
love it. We use a coined phrase, carefrontation, right? So that's kind of a Tom Ferry thing, carefrontation.
I like that.
And it's basically the same thing that you're talking about. I really like that mindset that you're leading with. And, I think Jim Carrey said it, and I love Jim Carrey, and I track with comedians a lot, but Will Smith's like my favorite guy on the planet. I mean, if I can come back as somebody, it would be Will Smith. He is just literally my greatest idol in so many levels. But Jim Carrey said, you can't have all this motivation and belief and watch these powering videos and then leave and get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and sit on the couch and watch TV. Those don't align, right? And so people, they're doing one possibly, but they're not putting activity into place, which is discipline. Right. And I'm a military guy. So when you speak discipline to me, I have a polar opposite idea of discipline. One is, deprivation and stress and difficulty. And the other one is freedom and empowerment and, vision and just that's, so I somewhat battled that, or I have in the past, where discipline to me was like, oh man, that means I have to do this. I have to work out. I have to do this, instead of reminding yourself and showing that discipline is going to create this activity. And we've talked about it. I'm in 75 Hard with Curtis Johnson and some other just rock stars, Tom Daves, Curtis Johnson, Don Yoakum, and some others. But it's creating those habits. And honestly, my business and my personal life, but my business is transformed in the last 54 days because I'm just absolutely disciplined. And those little disciplines build on each other into big disciplines. And so, with that, let me ask you a question. And I love how this is going. I really appreciate highlighting you and understanding the things that you've been through to get where you are now. But where did life change for you? Was it moving to Texas? And you got that cool hat on. When did that happen? You're known for wearing that sexy cowboy hat, or being in that sexy cowboy hat almost most of the times I see you. But when did that happen for you? And when did you embrace that?
Oddly, I consider myself the marketing guy because when you have a record label, that's pretty much what it is, a marketing company, because that's all you're doing is you're trying to take an unknown artist and trying to market and mold and shape them and create marketing that makes people want to buy. And so, but I can't take credit for the cowboy hat. My wife gets the credit for that. That happened one time. We were in Mexico. We were just hanging out, goofing off. And I was probably about 27 or maybe 26 or 27, maybe 27 at the time. And so we were walking by one of the stands, and the guy had these cowboy hats out. And I just, I had tennis shoes and regular t-shirt and stuff. And so I just took a cowboy hat on and put it on. And I was just kind of goofing off with friends and family that were hanging out. And somebody was like, man, that looks pretty good on you. And I said, nah. So I just went to go take it off. They said, no. It really does look pretty good. And so I just blew it off like they were just being goofy like I was. They said, no, seriously. So they went and got the mirror and I looked at it, I said, man, that looks pretty good. I like that.
I do look good.
So I asked the guy, I said, how much is this hat? He said it was like $9 or whatever.
Yeah.
I said, I'll give you $6. He took $6. So I gave him $6 for my hat. And I just started wearing them. That was back when I was in the music business. And next thing I know, I had boots and, I had a 10-acre property.
Wow.
And I started riding horses. And so it went downhill, put it that way. So here's the interesting thing though, Randy, when I got into real estate, I was 33. So I had been wearing my cowboy hat for about 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
And I told my wife, I said, I'm done. When I get into real estate, there is no way I'm wearing a cowboy hat. Like
interesting.
People are going to think I just do farm and ranch, or they're not going to know what to think. Like, who is this? And I just thought it would look silly on a sign and all this.
Right.
He said, you're wearing your cowboy hat. I said, I'm not wearing it. She said, you're going to wear it.
Wow.
And so you know how that goes.
Mama's got power.
I've been married. How long have I been married? 20. See, we got married in 92. So it's been 28 years.
26, 7, 8 years. Yeah.
27, something like almost 28.
That's awesome.
So
we'll cut that piece out so Josie doesn't see it.
Yeah. We'll cut that out. I know when I got married. I got married in 92. I know that.
We're leaving that in, baby. We're leaving that in. I love that. Well, congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
That's no small undertaking in today's world. And unfortunately, divorce has just become kind of an accepted social piece. And, that's one of the biggest tragedies, when I look at the good old days, and as I'm getting older, the better I was type thing. But when I look at the good old days, I relate that to marriage and commitment. And we just don't have that in this environment anymore. And I've talked about it on my show. I'm divorced twice now. I was married 23 years though. Mm-hmm. And, we had an amazing time and she had some struggles, ended up taking her life after we divorced. And, really, really sad about that. It was painful for my boys. I did a show a couple shows ago that me and my host cried about suicide and the impacts of that, and lost my brother to suicide, lost one of my best friends to suicide. It's really a tragic problem that we're in as a society. And, what comes up for me when I say all that is, and this is vulnerable, I'll be honest with you. I came from a colorful background as well, like you. I remember selling drugs when I was young. It was just so I could use them for free. But I remember in that space, right? And I've never said that publicly. I've never
been on a podcast where I've shared that I've sold crack cocaine. So,
first of all, let me thank you for being honest and real. And when we started this, I really want to applaud you, because I said, hey, buddy, I love you. What's off limits? Because I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't want to be off limits with anything. And you told me nothing's off limits, Randy Byrd. I'm an open book. And I love that about you. And frankly, I think this is the missing piece for social media and delivery of a content, because everybody's trying to look their best and they're standing next to cars that aren't theirs. They're running a BS life trying to be popular. And I think that the more that we get real, transparent with people, it impacts more lives, because there's a lot of people that follow you. You are literally a legend in the real estate business. You're a legend in that space. You're a legend in my mind, and you're certainly a titan in the minds of thousands of people. And when we look at that connectivity to the transparency of being real in our journeys, I think is valuable. I don't like talking about, I have 3 of the closest people on the planet, including my only younger brother that committed suicide. I don't like that. But I believe there's a place for me to deliver that message that's reaching one person somewhere. Yeah. And I got to be careful because I could tear up and cry about this again. But that is the belief that I have. And so when we live in that transparent life, that's the journey, right? People only see sometimes the success. They see maybe the Knolly Williams of the last decade, and they see this guy's got it going on, man. He's fortunate. He's lucky. He's had a fair shake. Did you read David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me?
I haven't read that one, no.
Get it. Honestly, if there's one recommendation, get that book. His story is so compelling about what he went through in adversity. And then now he's obviously a living testament to grit and perseverance on a personal level. And the things that he's put his body through are mind-blowing. I mean, I'll let you live that experience. And to the listeners, if you haven't listened to that, and my recommendation, get the Audible. Because I got the Audible first, and he basically narrates after every chapter. So he's got a ghost writer that read it. And then every chapter he chimes in and fills in the gaps, and you get to hear his story. Mind-blowing. And then obviously in reading the book, it was great, but the Audible was spectacular. So, there's a lot of people that track with you. And why don't we take a moment just to let people know where they can find you? And, if they're tracking with your content, and I know they will, where can people find you? What's the easiest way? Is it email, Instagram? What's best for you?
The easiest probably is the old-fashioned website, showing my age. And that's just Knolly, Knolly.com. I think that's the easiest place.
It's probably the easiest site too, Knolly.com.
Yeah.
Knolly.com.
Yeah. And that from there, you can get my Instagram, Facebook, my YouTube channel, everything is right there. And
I love it.
I have a lot of free books. I've got, this is the national bestseller called Success with Listings, How to Find, Secure, and Sell More Listings. Like you mentioned, I took over 1,000 listings my first 10 years in the business. And I did that by following what my mentors told me to do. They told me to do it. That's what I did. But a lot of people want to pick my brain. So I picked it myself, took 430 pages, but it's a step-by-step guide, almost like a textbook or a resource guide for having a thriving listing business, those that want listings.
And I haven't looked at that book in a while, but I did look at it a bit back. It's loaded with content.
Yeah, and it's a free download. So
is it really?
Yeah, you go to Knolly.com and there's a link where you can just download the PDF for free.
I love it.
I think everybody should have this if they can't afford it.
I was just going to say, if you're listening to this show and you don't download that free copy, we got real issues.
Yeah.
We got real issues of where your belief is.
It's obviously it's on Amazon as well, but if you want to download it for free, then you can download the whole thing and you can read it on your iPad or phone or whatever.
I appreciate you offering that.
Here's another free one. People always ask me, where do I get all these listing leads? How do I get leads? And so I wrote Triple My Listings. And if you go to Knolly.com, again, you can get it. This one we actually ship to you for free. You pay the shipping and we mail it out to you. But it's another great resource for people that are looking to up their listing game.
I love it. I love it. So this is a little bit of a selfish question on the show. I'm in the process of writing and starting a book on my own. I know a lot of people want to start and write a book. Can you walk us through that process a little bit, since you've been successful in it? You've navigated that space. Any nuggets for people to take away from the show if they want to get into writing their own book, or they have a passion project?
Yeah, I actually, interesting you should say that, because I actually ghostwrite also.
Oh, you do?
So I wrote this book called Consider It Sold, which is a complete guide for sellers. It's a seller's guide for getting their home sold, all the things to expect.
When did that come out? That came out in 2000.
I want to say this was about 2014, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe 2015.
Okay.
But it's just something that I print. I never really published it. I just wrote it and gave it to my sellers so that they could see, because my whole thing is I teach people how to become famous. And so I always looked and said, okay, what do famous people have? They have a book, they have all these different things that famous people, they have a press kit and so on.
Right.
So I created all these things that famous people have. And so I would always tell people, hey, go out and write the book. It's 8 chapters. Here's what to put in each chapter. So finally, one of my students convinced me to license it. And so
no kidding.
Same book.
I love it.
and it doesn't cost them a dime because they have basically what you do is you go out and get your sponsors on the back, and then they pay $100 a piece. That pays for the license, the copyright license.
Smart.
So that's for this book for sellers. But if you just want to write a book, like maybe your life story or the Randy Byrd experience or something like that.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, what I've always done, I took technical writing in college, which I didn't finish. By the way, this is an interesting anecdote or side note that since you're pulling this stuff out of me, the only school I ever graduated from was kindergarten. Isn't that sad? I mean, I graduated, and I have pictures of me graduating kindergarten. I don't remember, but I did graduate kindergarten. I did not graduate junior high, what we call junior high back there. Here they call it middle school.
Right,
I did not graduate high school, had to get my GED because I was a young knucklehead. Then I went to college and dropped out of that. I was not made for the educational system. I can tell you that.
Dude, you are my real brother now because we have absolute parallel lives. And again, I've never told that story because I'm a little embarrassed about it. But, it's funny as we grow older, that embarrassment turns into power.
Yeah.
It's my power. It's not, if I give my power away to them, then it's their power, but it's my power because my journey. But as we're going through that journey and then we start measuring our own success, then we start becoming okay with our past. Right. But the past has always been the same.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't get to graduate high school with my class because I failed history. And I knew that if I failed history, I wasn't going to graduate. So I had to go get my GED to go in the Coast Guard, which I was passionate about. So I got my GED seemingly easy because I was fairly knowledgeable and intelligent. I just didn't like school. I like girls and football, not school. And so history, what's funny about that to me, Knolly, is history is my favorite subject on the planet now. I cannot get enough of it. Everything from History Channel to Ancient Aliens, anything that has to do with biblical or historical times, I'm literally like fanatical about it. And that's the stupid subject that I didn't graduate high school because of.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's mind-blowing.
Don't get me started on Ancient Aliens. That's a whole nother, that's a fun show, actually.
That's another show. Hey, I teased my father because he's like, this is real. The pyramids were 100% built by aliens. And I'm like, Dad, I'm going to get you on medication, okay? There's things that are going to help you. I watched 3 episodes on a Saturday with him. I'm like, they really did build the pyramids, So let's do another show on that. That'd be fun, man.
That'd be a lot of fun.
That'd be a lot of, we could call it rub-a-dub-dub aliens. Rub-a-dub.
So just real quick, I'm going to give you a couple quick tips on writing a book. So
appreciate it. Thank you.
Number one, create an outline. Look at some of your favorite books, and it's all manifestation, right? It's imagination activation. So when I write a book, Randy, what I do is I find a book that looks like the book that I want to write. Not in content. I'm just talking about the size of it. Like when I started this book, I already knew how big it was going to be because there was another book there was 2 other books that looked exactly this way. I knew the size of it and everything.
Really?
Yeah, that's a whole nother probably road, but just begin to see that book. And then you start with the outline. What do I want to tell people? And that's the table of contents. So I want to talk this, and that, and then you create the table of contents. And then you start filling it in. And what you do is you take out your iPhone. Okay, if you don't have an iPhone, they sell them at Apple. No, you can use an Android. And all I do, I have an app on here that I use. They have a text app here, but I use Simple Text is the app, or Simple Note is the app that I use. Simple Note. And I actually literally dictate my entire book. Okay. So it types while I say what I want to say. Now you can take that content and hand it to an editor, when you feel like it's more or less ready.
Can you do it by chapter? Or do you have to wait till it's all done? What do you recommend?
I do it by chapter.
Oh, so yeah. Say I'm going to write 10 chapters and I have 3 done. Would you recommend me getting those to a ghostwriter to get that started, or wait till I have the whole thing kind of laid out?
It depends on your writing style. If you're really, really a good writer, you may not need to go to a ghostwriter. You just go to an editor straight.
I'm a good talker, not a writer.
Yeah. Well, if you need somebody to, if there's, the editor that I found for my book is on Fiverr.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Fiverr.
Yeah, no, I've heard of Fiverr. So they have editors that can handle that piece of it.
Oh yeah, she's got hundreds and hundreds of reviews, all 5 stars, and she's actually a book editor. So
can you share her name, or do you want to keep her secret?
Yeah, sure. They have code names. Her name is Orange Girl,
Orange Girl, okay.
But I can send you the actual link to her, so you.
I'd love that personally. I'm ready. I'm nailing it on based what you just downloaded. I've been following kind of that routine without knowing. I've got a ton of content that I spoke into my phone. I'm ready. I feel passionate about it. I've laid out the 12 chapters kind of historically through it, but I appreciate you sharing that. I know you're an expert in that particular category. You've obviously got a bestseller and some other things. So
what's your book about, Randy?
You're going to put me on the spot, man. So obviously there's a coaching and real estate theme to it, but it's really about my journey, right? And once you listen to David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me, that's where my inspiration came from. When I listened to that, I'm like, I have to tell my content because there's a lot of pain and tragedy in my life. And I failed a couple of times. I went bankrupt when I was, in the 2001 World Trade Center thing. I was 30 years old and bought a $2 million business when I was 30 and lost it 10 months later after it was just crushing it. 911 killed us. And I was in a space that was very susceptible to that, being home improvement and high-end appliances, high-end. And it eroded me for like a decade. I didn't know my way. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I second guessed everything I did. And it wasn't until later, till I got another win under my belt, built a little self-confidence, realized that I was codependent and I had some real issues with me that I didn't know about. And it was because people that loved me and it was an ex-girlfriend, ex-fiance that handed me a book called Codependent No More. And I'm like, I don't even know what codependent stands for, frankly. True story. And Rhonda, if you're listening, love you for telling me that day. And we're great friends to this day, but I didn't know what I didn't know, right? I read 2 or 3 pages of this thing and I'm like, I'll be darned, I am codependent. Now I have to face that, right? And then that led to opening up other avenues. And now I'm a personal growth junkie, right? It's just, that's my jam. So I want to write a book that takes me through my life, basically into a place of success and the things I've learned, and really perseverance and grit comes to mind, right? Because I've failed so many times I can't count, but I've always failed forward, and at least in my mind. And I always knew that the next thing, and it's going to have an entrepreneur piece to it, because that's really what my passion is. For me, I'd rather own a hot dog cart in front of Home Depot than make $400,000 a year at the post office, punching in, punching out, sorting letters. It's just not even a question, right?
Same here.
Because I can get the best damn hot dog cart in the state, and I can put diamond plate on it, and then I can build 2 and then build 10 and scale that. That excites me. That will keep me up at night, where the post office, there's no way, right?
And I had a nightmare the other day, like 2 days ago, honestly, and it's never had this nightmare before, but I was working a regular job, like what they call regular jobs.
Right. J-O-B, just over broke.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a nightmare. I woke up and I was like, I literally was going into the office. I was like, I knew that I had to hurry up and wake up from that dream,
Oh, man.
But I've been self-employed since 23.
I have too, man. I went through the hotel business and worked in the hotel business, but I moonlighted, had 2 other jobs at the same time. I've always had 2 or 3 jobs, but and the last thing I'll say that I think is really powerful about this show, and you asked specifically about the book, what comes up for me, is I got into coaching. I coached with Knolly Williams, obviously a little bit, regionally, locally. I got into national coaching with a national coaching company, Tom Ferry. I don't think it's a secret, but because I needed to tell myself that I was motivated every day and to keep myself accountable to all these things I learned through these adversary times, right? Going bankrupt back in 2001 and wanting to build that. And so I really dug into that. And so the reason I got into coaching after my brother committed suicide, shortly after that, and I got broken up with, and all these things happened to me all at once. And frankly, for the first time in my life, I wanted to take my own life. And I don't say that lightly, because I was always the guy that didn't understand that. I was like, how could anybody take their life? Go live on a beach in Hawaii and teach scuba diving lessons for $20 a day cash, and you're living like a king.
Yeah.
That's not what happens when you're in a depressed state and when you're in that place. And whole nother show, right? But for me to be vulnerable, I had to get in that space, to be forced to every day inspire others, be forced every day to focus on my best game face. And I did that for me. Nobody knows that, but I did that for me. And through that transition, I became in love with the process. I really am absolutely passionate about helping others. And in the quiet darkness of that space with me and the client, I don't care about anybody knowing about that success now. That's a difference as well. Because as I was rebuilding my self-esteem, I wanted people to know how great I was. I cared how many likes I got. Now I deliver content with no concern with that. But it's a journey. You can't just decide you're going to do this tomorrow and have all these things come into place. You have to go through those kicks in the knees, scraping your elbows, and dragging your arms on the ground. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been personally, I've filed bankruptcy. I've had a home foreclose. I had a home go through short sale. So I failed in many, many ways. I mean, I had a business that went out of business, my first business, after making 150 grand a month, 14 people on payroll, 18 artists on the label, and couldn't make ends meet at the end of it. So we've been through that. And I tell you, people, they see that iceberg and they don't see all that's underneath of what, the perseverance that we've had to go through. Absolutely. To get to what God has put. But the thing is, honestly, there's so many, as Jesus put it, many are called, but few are chosen, because they're not willing to do the work. And it's, but I tell you, the work is worth it. The work is worth it.
Absolutely.
Speaking back, Randy, on the suicide thing, I had a friend of ours, a church friend, who committed suicide. And it was very difficult for them to get people to speak at the service. So I chose to speak, and I did a poem called Tragedy into Triumph. And it's incidentally has been a poem that I've been able to share with people that have gone through, family members or friends that have committed suicide. And so I'd love to, I'll when we're offline, I'll share a copy of that poem with you.
I'd love that. And, I'm so blessed to have you on the show today. And
we could probably speak for hours, right?
There's no question we could. There's little question. Matter of fact, with your blessing, I'm going to put you on my radar. I want to come see you sometime, hang out with you just as a human being. And that just enriches my life. So I'd love to, we'll coordinate that off show, but, leads me to my final question. And, this could go anywhere you want it to go, but basically what's the greatest impact you want to have on the world? As we leave the show today and the listeners, like, what's your calling of, what impact do you want to leave on the world?
That's a great question, because, and as you get into the PD space, or the personal development space, it really is a rabbit hole, isn't it, Randy? I mean, it never ends. And I spend an hour and a half to 2 hours a day reading or listening to personal development stuff. My biggest passion is to see people doing what they were put in this realm to do. When you look at all the different studies and different books that have been written, the regrets of the dying and so on, the biggest regret that people have, and by the way, a recent Gallup poll of 150,000 Americans, the ones that are supposed to have the dream, if you will, right, said that over 70% either hated or disliked their jobs. Mm-hmm. So the reality is, people are doing things, they're getting up and they're going to a job that they hate to come back and enjoy things that they don't even want or need, and living a life that's to impress friends that they don't even have, right? Mm-hmm. The people that don't even care about them. And so my biggest thing that I would like to do in this realm at this point, being right about to turn 50, is to inspire and help others to understand what their purpose is. I created a course called Discovering Your Divine Destiny, and it's like an 8-week course, and that's really my passion, man. I mean, I love real estate to a fault, probably. I'm building a big real estate team, big real estate group, and I love sewing into these people. I think that real estate is a conduit for your purpose. It's sort of a financier or a space for you to be able to live the purpose that you have. And I think that many people, Randy, believe that their purpose is something that they do, but we're not human doings, we're human beings. Your purpose is who you are. And so my biggest mission is to help people to become who they are. And I think the best analogy for that is if you look at the David sculpture that Michelangelo sculpted, okay, when you look at that, it was sculpted out of a piece of marble, but it wasn't. Most people think that they have to keep adding and adding and adding to make themselves who they are. But the reality is, just like the sculpture of David, it's a chipping away. It's the removing. And so we have to continue to remove all the things in our life that don't belong so that we can reveal who we really are, who God actually created us to be. And so that's going to be my legacy. At least the next 20 years, I'm dedicating my life to helping people to understand why they're here, what their purpose is, and to be about that purpose. Does that make sense?
Are you kidding me? You just gave me God bumps like head to toe. I love that analogy of taking the sculpture and chipping away at it, because it's true. We're trying to add layers to make us whole or make us believe that we're in the image that we should be in our minds or in the public's eyes, which is even more tragic. Right. But really in God's eye, we're already there. We're already perfect in every way.
In God's eye, the sculpture is already there, but it's buried underneath.
It's a slab of marble or granite.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, dude, I love you. And I mean that from
love you too, brother.
A bro way, rub-a-dub. But thank you so much for being here. Literally one of my favorite interviews to date. And I knew that we would track. I did not know, and it's scary how aligned our pasts are, man. And someday we're going to sit around a fire and tell stories, and it's going to sound like we're making this up, but we're not.
Exactly.
Listen, man, thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate you. If anybody wants to reach out, it's knolly.com, KNOLLY.com, or rubadubnation.com. Just kidding. Baby. That might be a Golden State Warriors thing. Anyway, brother, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to visit with us today. And God bless you.
You have a fantastic show, Randy. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate you.
The pleasure is all ours. Thank you, my friend. And I'll talk to you soon. Everybody, Tuesday Titans, I'm glad you're enjoying the show. Have a great Tuesday. Enjoy it. Take care now. Bye for now.